What I want to start with is the fact that digital analysts are different than other people in the company. We always talk about analytics in terms of people, process, and technology. Well, this is the hit the wrong button. This is the people part where we talk about the individuals, and this is like three different hats. You can listen to this three different ways. You're a manager of a team. You are a team member, or you are a team member who wants to be a manager. All of it applies here so that we can understand the job. And it starts with, I'm going to do 10 quick hits, management quick hits. It's some of it's management 101, so it'll be very familiar for those of you who have been managing, but it's all bent towards, okay, yeah, but how does that apply to analysts? So the first quick hit is about managing up. Your job is to protect the team from the organization. And because they are unique, they need special care. These are analysts are second-class citizens. They don't break records. They don't make decisions. They don't win the President's Club trip to Tenerife. They are dispatchers, not firefighters. They are air traffic controllers. They're not pilots. So your job is to run interference, to be a cheerleader for analytics and continuously explain and market inside the company why they are valuable. You need to educate your internal or external clients. And your clients are, if you're not a data-driven company, if you're not data from the get-go, people are hesitant they don't receive data well. They look at it like a report card, like a judgment. You have to explain to them over and over again, not just one and done, that you're there to help them to figure out what they're doing. And if you tell them something they don't want to know, like your advertising didn't work out very well, they're going to give you lots of reasons why you're wrong. First of all, it's math. Oh my God, I got my degree in theater. I don't know about math, but they'll also simply not believe you because I've been doing this all my life, and intuition is what I know. So, and you're speaking in tongues. I don't understand what linear regression means nothing to them. So don't use that word. Your job is to help them understand that you are there to help them. We used to say, if they ask for numbers, ask them why they want to know. We've learned that that's kind of pejorative. Like, why do you want to know? So instead, what's important to you about this? Or what challenges are you facing? Or what would a good result look like? Or, I mean, when you get to know them well enough, you've been in the organization long enough, find out how they earned their bonus and explain that the numbers will help them earn their bonus and you're there to help them win. So manage up, protect the people beneath you. Number two, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. This is one of the biggest difficulties of transitioning from an individual contributor to a manager. The contributor is the person who really knows the code, who really knows the data, who really knows how to put together a SQL query in the most beautiful way. That's not you anymore if you're the manager. Your job is to let them be the smart people. Support them. Your job is to worry about paper clips and staff meetings and administrivia. Their job is the coding and building a pipeline and doing the analysis and creating visualizations and storytelling. And they're all these different skills don't belong in one person. So you help them hone those individual skills. You get them to be the best at their thing, and you worry about the managing. I've talked to an uncountable number of digital analysts over the years, and it always happens that the thing that I always ask people is, what advice do you have for your former self? And, it's like, oh, I wish I were bolder, stronger, smarter, faster, braver. Well, wait, what advice do you have for your old managers? And it's always the same. Get out of my way and let me do my work. Do not micromanage. Tell me what you want, not how you want it done, and let them do it. They won't. Now, first of all, you have to be comfortable with the fact they won't do it right. They won't do it your way. They'll do it their way. If their way is different than your way, it's not bad. It's just different. You have to let them figure it out. So let them get on with it. They will surprise you. They'll do things you hadn't thought of trying. And if they don't do it wrong, they won't learn. So if you want me to write an article and I go to ChatGPT and I copy and paste, I didn't learn anything. If I have to figure it out myself, I will learn. If I write bad code and it pops up error messages, that's how I learn. If you just lean over and get your hands on my keyboard to show me the perfect query, I don't learn anything. So let them do their own research, give them problems to solve, not tasks to do. We need this thing. Please figure out how to make it happen. And really, one of the most powerful things you can do is when somebody comes to you with a question, how do I do this? Or what do we do about this? The best manager's response is, I don't know. What do you think? And make them think, make them work on it. Now, the them, there's multiple thems, and they are, different personalities, and you get to deal with that. There are the extroverts and the introverts. So, there's two kinds of people in the world, people who believe there's only two kinds of people in the world. And the extrovert is somebody who thinks out loud. You have to give them agency. You have to encourage their enthusiasm. You need to let them pontificate for a while, because that's how they understand what they are thinking. They have to talk it out to see what they think. The introverts are the opposite. They think a whole lot before speaking. And it's because their brain is so full. I mean, there's so much going on in there. I don't know which thing to say first. So I need to just process it for a while. And they do need their time alone. Whereas the extroverts, they grow and they get great new ideas when they are in community with others. So don't think one is good and one is bad. They are just different. You will be dealing with the lone wolf, the coder, the modeler, the teacher, somebody who loves explaining. That's what I do. I dearly love that. The leader is the one who is always encouraging others and people always go to because they get a good response. Instead of the answer is 7. It's oh, that's an interesting question. Let's work on that together. That's a leader. And you will succeed by encouraging diversity. Everybody has a different lens through which they view the world. And if the lenses are, the more diverse the lenses are, the more likely it is that you'll come up with even better results. If you hire people who look like you and act like you and went to the same school, then you just made a clone. But if you get people with different perspectives and different histories, even different neurodiversity, that they will come together, and that combination is incredibly powerful. The people in your team who are the socially inept ones, you need to defend them in public. You need to take them aside and do some soft skills training. But just because they're not gregarious in the life of the party doesn't mean they don't have value. But help them, give them some tricks and tips to help them along. We're then going to help them find their path forward. Now, you may have noticed I'm on number 5 of 10. I am blowing through these intentionally, and I need to set up for you why. This is a workshop in a small amount of time. So rather than just deliver a lot of information at you, I'm going to spend half the time delivering and half the time answering questions and helping you solve your problems with your team, your boss, your coworkers, because, you can ask questions anonymously, right? You can hit the chat and send me a private chat that I will answer here without revealing who you are. So if you and your boss are watching at the same time, it's okay. You can tell me bad stuff about your boss. All right, individual careers. The first thing to understand is that everybody leaves. Nobody's going to work for you forever. They are going to get another job. Their partner is going to move out of town and they're going to move with them. They're going to have to go back where they grew up because they're dealing with elder care. There's all kinds of reasons. So you need to do continuous recruitment. You always need to have people in the pipeline that you would hire when there is an opportunity. And you recruit for goals and curiosity. It's not, yes, I know Google Analytics inside out, and I'm taken all of the GA4 classes there are, so I know everything. You want the people who come into the interview saying, well, I've done this and this and this, but I want to do this and that. I really want to learn these things. Those are the people you want working with you. They want to learn more and they're curious. And you need to create continuous learning opportunities, like the ability to come to an event like this, or go to a conference, go to a measure camp, go to Marketing Analytics Summit, go to Super Week. It's that ability to encourage. Your job is to encourage people to learn. And if you don't, they'll get bored and they will leave because they're not getting anywhere. So when you create a career track for somebody, are they interested in continuing along that path of being a sole contributor? Like, I aspire to be Simo Ahava. I want to know everything there is to know about tag management. And you become a very important part of the team. And there is a career path of being the person who knows the most about that. But then there's also the management path, which is different. That's helping people and dealing with drama. And people have different goals at different times in their career. So you need to revisit their goals, say, quarterly. What do you like best about your job? What do you like least about your job? What can get you to do more of and have you do less of? If you have a big enough team, let's say you've got a team of 8 to 10 people, give some serious thought to rotating tasks. So the person who is doing email analytics is moved over to social analytics. That person's moved over to search analytics. That person is moved over to web analytics. And all of them are working on the pipeline, of course, because you not only do you want them cross-trained, but if somebody leaves suddenly, there's a fill-in, there's somebody to back them up. But also because there's continuous learning. And continuous learning is not just go take a class, but the best way to learn something is to give a class. So yes, send them to conferences, but also ask them to be presenters and ask them to present to each other. And for learning, the other really important thing is give them space and time for deep work. Large companies are starting to pick a specific day of the week where there's no meetings. No, you're not allowed to have a meeting on Friday. It's there to do deep work. Then it's time to take a look at the people that what to do with what kinds of people. So promote, reward, and replace the leaders, achievers, and cheaters. We're gonna promote the leaders, the ones who are naturally good at attracting, the people that folks go to ask questions, the people lean on, that they gravitate toward at the pub. You want to groom them to take your job. You want to ask them to take on tasks that are a little more managerial. It's not a big deal. It's not a promotion of any kind. It's just like, oh, can you do this bit for me? And maybe even this week. I mean, just, fill in when I'm out. It's the ensign, you have the bridge kind of thing. You want to give them the ability to step into your role so you can take your boss's job. You want to reward achievers. That's, of course, as it should be. They deserve it. They're hitting their goals. They are doing what they say they're going to do. The work they're doing is very good. And then there's the replace the cheaters. The cheaters are the ones who aren't putting in the full effort. The materials they deliver have to be corrected all the time. They're not quite on it. And they're cheating themselves. So yes, they're costing you money, but they could be A players in a different position or at a different company. And letting them go is giving them more opportunity to be great somewhere else. If you have C players on your team, you owe it to them to let them go. If you have B players on your team, your responsibility is to help them become A players if they can. But please don't make them managers, because B players hire C players. B players hire people who won't make them look bad. You want to have a whole team of A players that all can handle it and can achieve. There's a classic culture eats strategy for lunch. Culture is not the motivational poster on the wall. Culture is what you tolerate. If it's okay to be late for meetings, if it's okay that people snipe at each other behind their back, or deadlines are kind of loose, then that's your culture. That's what people come to expect. Culture is the values that are expressed and through rituals and practices. Go review the Seth Godin comments about people like us do things like this. What are people like us like at this company? And be very transparent about expectations, about progress, about how things are going in the company. If you're at a small company, if everybody actually knows what the financials are of the small company, then they understand what profitability means and why billing for time is important, and why we all need to work for profitability, because we can see the numbers. Because in the absence of information, people make stuff up. So, oh, look, we sold a whole bunch more this year than we did last year. The owner of the company must, be going on vacation and buying a yacht. They don't know what the overhead looks like because they haven't seen it. So if you're transparent, you get to control the narrative. I'm absolutely delighted that there is a anonymous question to come in. What to do if I'm in a company that does not reward achievers and even scold them for setting too high expectations for the rest of the team? Run from the building screaming, arms waving overhead would be my best advice. I'm sorry, but that is culture, right? If my father-in-law, his first job out of the military, he was in World War II, he had an expense account, and he traveled the country and he would turn in his expenses. And the first time he did, his boss called him in, closed the door and said, no, you can't turn in expenses like this. This is half the money everybody else spends. You're making the rest of us look bad. If you're a major achiever and you get scolded for doing your job too well, that's not fixable. That's bad culture. Maybe a different department in your company, maybe a different company. So I hope that helps. The culture thing stands in the way of this advice. Praise in public, criticize in private is actual standard way to go. And it's good, except for cultural issues. Cultural issues need to be called out immediately. If somebody's in a meeting and somebody's up presenting something, and from the back of the room you hear somebody snort and say, well, that'll never fly, you call them on it right now. You say, do not interrupt the presentation. If you have something constructive to say, you can save it to the end, but we don't do that here. People like us don't do things like that. And that's how people learn in real time. Other than that, you make sure that you thank everybody for doing something good in front of everybody else. In fact, if you really have somebody whose spirit you need to lift, whose confidence you need to raise, figure out a way that they can overhear you praising them to somebody else. I know it's a little subterfuge, but it works wonders. And you thank people. I run an analytics cohorts program, which is a small group mentorship. And we always start each one with, what is your good news today? And we haven't seen each other for 2 weeks. What's happened? What's been made you happy in the last 2 weeks? And there was this one guy who said, well, I was going to tell you about how my son took his first steps yesterday. And we were so excited, but this is even better. And we all went, wait, what? What could be better than first steps? We got an email from the chief marketing officer to the whole team saying, thank you for the analysis that you did. The work that you did was pivotal. It put our product in a new direction. You guys really, really did it for us. Thank you. Nobody on that team had ever met the chief marketing officer. This was like word on high. They were just so excited. At that moment, it was better than his son's first steps. So praise in public, criticize in private. Your wins are theirs. If they did something great, that's them. If they did something wrong, that's on you. I'm sorry I didn't give you enough training. I'm sorry I didn't give you enough time. I'm sorry I didn't get those executives out of your way. So if it's a good thing, it's on them. If it's a bad thing, yeah, it's on you. All right, I've got a couple of more questions here. How do you view the dilemma, hire diverse versus hire for culture fit? Hire for values. Culture fit can be a problem by making everybody monotone. The culture fit that you want is values. We value hard work. We value doing what we say. We value having fun at work. We value supporting each other. But diversity is age and race and background and education. So if you are diverse in values, you will not fit in at this company. But every other diversity thing is a good one. How could you suggest to C-level management to grow an internal analytics team instead of externalize more work to partner agencies, cost long-term value? That's exactly what I'd say. When working with C-level, what matters is long-term vision. So 5 years from now is science fiction, as we've learned. Things change so fast. So give them a timeline of 2 years or 3 years. In 3 years' time, would you like me and my team to be managing an ecosystem of external service or providers? Or would you like to grow the team so we can be hub and spoke, center of excellence, and everybody on the team really understands the business? Which one sounds better to you? And you let them choose. Next question. I trust my manager, but I'm nervous about handing over any financial decisions, invoices, payments, etc. Any suggestions? I'm going to ask for clarification because you don't want to hand financial decisions and invoices to your manager. So I'm a little unclear on that. They should know what the finances are. All right, I'm going to bounce back to. I need to. I've got 3 chat sessions open here, so give me a second. Next up is, you need to be listening to what they think and what they want, and that is soliciting feedback. This can be really hard, and especially hard on them. So the recommendation is that you get somebody else to ask them open-ended questions about how they're doing. I'm embarrassed to tell my boss what I think is wrong, so I'm not going to. I don't want to rat out my coworkers, so that makes me uncomfortable. But if a third party says, I'm interested in your opinion, I've got these open-ended questions, I'm going to take your words and I'm going to rewrite them, because in a small team, you can tell who said what because you recognize their language, you recognize their writing style. So you get a third party to do it. Number 10, this is a biggie, is work on your eulogy. This was a podcast I listened to near the very beginning of COVID, where, what do we do? How do we help people? What do we manage? And the answer was, this is not the time to worry about quarterly reports. This is the time to worry about your fellow workers, your colleagues. Nobody ever got up at a funeral and said, they met their quarterly goals. They increased sales by 10%. They got excellent 360 reviews from their staff. What they say is, they really helped others. She was always there for me. He made me feel like I belonged. So those are the traits that matter in management. Letting people know that you care about them is the big deal. And of course, because, you can't just do 10. Yes, there's an 11th one. Staff satisfaction. So this isn't, soliciting feedback is about you, right? Staff satisfaction is about them. So I've come across the best tool so far. This is the Q12 Employee Engagement Survey from from Gallup. And it asks questions about the individual. Do you feel like you have a way forward? Are you being supported at this company? Do you think that people care about you here? So yes, you're going to have a copy of all of these. You can email me directly, because my email is on the bottom of every slide. Or I'm guessing Phil has a way for you to download these. But these kinds of questions are really marvelous for helping people, for finding out if people feel like they belong. So I've also provided some other resources here. The Digital Analytics Association has a competency framework and job descriptions and self-assessment, salary survey, etc. Great book called Building Analytics Teams. There is an amazing 100-tweet Twitter thread about managing that I recommend. And then I spoke about deep work and recommend that highly. Another resource is a company called Vivo Team and another one called Core Sciences, which are about how people work together emotionally. We know Myers-Briggs, it doesn't really work, but these two organizations help you identify how people get along and who's good on what teams. And I'm going to check, we got a couple of more questions here. Advice for independent contributors. Well, if you are an independent contributor, then yes, go be the best you can be. Become a thought leader in as narrow area as you can, because you can become world famous. You will be, the Krista Seiden of GA4. You will be the Simo Ahava of tag management, because you're going to just focus on that and keep harping on that. If it's advice about independent contributors for managers, then support them in any way you can to be that subject matter expert until you perceive that they are losing the thread, that they're losing interest. And maybe they want to be manager, or maybe they want to try a different technology and being something, the best at something in specific. What is my opinion on remote work? How can we consolidate a remote team? Corporate culture. Corporate culture says you trust people. So trusting people, that's great. If they do their work and they turn it in on time and it's good work, then hey, working from home is working. That's great. But if your work is more collaborative in nature, then you need to have a balance of coming into the office and staying at home. Why do I need to come into the office? If you want me to come into the office 5 days a week so I can sit at my desk and be on Zoom calls, that doesn't work for me. If there are 2 days a week where we have brainstorming meetings and problem solving meetings and goal setting meetings, great. That's a purpose. I will do the commute to make that happen. Some companies are, no, you have to be here full time. Well, if I live in a tiny apartment and I have 3 babies and I would love to be out of the house for 8 hours a day, then great. But otherwise, that's not going to work for everybody. So there has to be a balance. My opinion is that remote work works, and you have to balance that. There's a couple of more questions, but first I have yet another slide, and that is all 11. Oh, look, there's 12 because now we get to talk about generative AI. Anyway, you think about all of those. This is what I've covered. I'm willing to take questions about any of this. Here's our next question, another dilemma. Commercial organizations working with and for clients look at team efficiency. How do you view team learning, investment, compared to team efficiency, benefit, with learning on the job as the default? People aren't machines. Machines work at high efficiency, and you put a little oil on them and you turn the rheostat up and they go faster. Humans don't do that. We are always learning on the job because the job changes. That's the whole point. If the job was the same, it would be automated. So we are learning about the client. We're learning about the marketplace, learning about customers, learning about the products and the process and how to make it better. And learning on the job is the default. That is what we have to do. So there has to be a combination of this amount of time is for you to go learn stuff, and this amount of time is you need to crank it out and get it done. As a manager, my job is to look at a project and scope it so that I have that learning time built in. And I have the ad hoc question time built in. So if it's a 10-hour job, I'm going to quote it as 15 hours because there's stuff I can't see yet. What should a business do that has a few A+ achievers carrying all the burden of productivity? How to nurture them, and what's the long-term outcome for the business if it stays this way? Well, if you've got a few A+ achievers, and they are carrying all the burden, then the business will continue on as it is. But eventually they're going to burn out and they're going to go somewhere else where they can work with other A+ players. And so the question is, how do you raise the B or C players, or you get rid of them? I'm afraid it's kind of black and white like that. Since boomers are going to be around for a bit longer in the workplace, how do we get these decision makers to learn the new trick of making data-informed decisions or even pretend to care? Ooh, that's personal culture. That's data literacy. Senior management data literacy was something that we encouraged them to chase after because all of the magazines are talking about it, and you need to be able to say that you're data driven too. Data scientist is the sexiest job of the 21st century. That got changed when we got to generative AI, because what we went through was digital transformation, which is about data, and COVID helped us turn the heat up on that. But now generative AI is going to turn everything on its head. And these boomers, they're at an inflection point. They can embrace data and embrace AI and embrace being automated and data-driven, or they can retire. This is an opportunity for them to say, that's a whole new area. I just don't need I'm going to go plant plants in my garden. If you really want your senior management to get it and care about being data informed, express to them the excitement and with enthusiasm how interesting it is, how much better they could be. Find out how they earn their bonus. And you have some magic you can do in the back room called data that will help them. And there are some who just don't care. They don't want to know. They got there because they always made right decisions because they're smart. And there's some who will engage and will be interested. And then there's some who will simply leave. So put on your salesperson's hat, whip up a marketing program, internal marketing to sell the idea of being data driven. And another question here, or as an alternative, do we just wait them out until they leave the workplace? So I'm reminded of 1995. So the World Wide Web came about in Mosaic was released in 1993, and within a couple of years, people were saying, the senior management just doesn't get it. They don't understand the web. What do I do? And eventually the final answer was, well, just wait for the old white guys at the top to die. They're not dying. They're working until they're 70 and 80 years old. So it's a challenge. I recommend trying to convince them. I recommend running workshops, which is okay, a blatant sales pitch. I help companies. I run workshops on what is machine learning, what is generative AI, what impact does it make, why should you care? Do a lunch and learn. Just create a 3 or 4 slide deck for yourself and get the company internally, invite people to lunch and learns and feed them. That's important. They'll show up for food and explain how it could be instead of the details of how it happens. There's an old saying that if you want to encourage boat builders to build boats, you don't lecture them about boat building. You get them excited about the majesty of the open ocean. So you go to senior management and you figure out what their long-term goals are and their values, and you line those two together and you say, this is how data can help us get there. And sell. All right, I've got, oops, I lost my thread. Where am I? I've got a few more minutes for another question, or maybe Phil, you've got some things that you wanted me to cover that I did not.
We've got literally about a minute left, Jim. I'm just going to jump back to share my screen for a second. So hopefully, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
And no.
Okay. Firstly, thank you again so much, Jim, for doing your talk. You helped me massively when I first started out in my career. One sort of fun story you may or may not remember. So I actually got a ticket to eMetrics probably must have been like 19 years ago or something now, and I submitted an analytics poem. The poem was terrible, but at the end of it I said, P.S. I can also make rude noises with my armpits. I'm not going to make any rude noises with my armpits on a Zoom call, but it was just because of that one thing. It really changed the course of my career and direction. So I'm eternally grateful for you kind of opening those doors, and I can't thank you enough.
I absolutely remember that, and that was why I was thrilled that you could join the community.
Yes, yeah, and I'd say to all the attendees, Jim is literally so knowledgeable, so helpful. If you can either join his cohorts or go to Marketing Analytics Summit in Las Vegas, and then it will change your career as well as much as it's changed mine. just a couple of sort of things. It's very helpful for speakers to get feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like. Also, maybe you want to send anonymous feedback to Jim. You can either send that. I did put your email into chat, but we can send anonymous feedback on the speaker survey if you just don't put your name on it. Or have a LinkedIn connection or something. We've got we've got 5 minutes actually for the next slot, but there is a networking lounge which is on Como. So Chris, if you could just put a link to that into chat. Jim, I don't know if you're around for the next kind of 10-15 minutes or so, if you could try that link and try and navigate to the room, so you're in there, and people just need to double click on your name or picture, and they should then be able to listen to you in Como. So people might and you can also lock the doors on Como if you actually double click on the door. So if people want to ask you a one-to-one private thing, they could potentially do that in there.